What did the weird kid in your school do that you'll never forget? When I was 15, we took a geology trip to Spain for a week. This was 2018, and our school only did this trip every 3 years, so everyone was excited. This girl in our class was strange. She wore the same black hoodie every single day with these massive orange spike bracelets that looked like Halloween decorations. Her hair was bright ginger and honestly looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks. First day, I noticed she had this worn notebook, and she'd write in it after disappearing to the bathroom. I didn't think much of it until day 2, when one of the girls in my room told me she'd asked around about the notebook. Apparently, she was keeping a tally of how many times she successfully peed standing up like a guy. I thought it was a joke, some rumor to make fun of the weird kid. But then during our first field trip to this rocky area, I saw her duck behind some boulders. I was curious, so I followed from a distance and watched her find a spot, pull down her jeans, and just stand there peeing with this look of pure satisfaction, like she'd won an Olympic medal. Afterwards, she pulled out that notebook, added a tally mark, and walked back to the group like nothing happened. I told my friends and they didn't believe me. This continued for 2 days. She'd find excuses to wander off during our geology sessions, always coming back with that same satisfied expression. The professors didn't notice because they were too busy pointing at rocks. By day 3, most of us had just accepted she was bizarre and tried to ignore her. Then came the Madrid incident. We had a day off to relax, and everyone voted to spend it in the city. The bus ride was supposed to be 2 hours, maybe 2.5 with traffic. We all loaded up around 8 in the morning. She sat near the back by herself with her notebook out. Everyone else was excited, talking about what shops they wanted to visit. About 30 minutes into the drive, she started shifting in her seat, mumbling to herself. People around her went quiet because she was getting louder, saying things like, "I need to go," and "This isn't good." She stood up suddenly and waddled down the aisle to the driver. Her movements were stiff and urgent. He was this older Spanish guy who didn't speak much English. She tried explaining she needed a bathroom, but he kept shaking his head and pointing forward, saying something in Spanish. The argument got heated. She was practically yelling, and he finally pulled over onto the shoulder of this empty highway in the middle of nowhere. Just brown dirt and scrub bushes for miles. The bus doors opened with that hydraulic hiss. She walked back down the aisle past all of us staring and got off using the middle door. We all turned to watch through the windows. She took maybe 3 steps away and dropped to her knees. She started digging a hole with her bare hands in this bone-dry dirt, like a dog burying something. The ground was hard and compact, but she kept clawing at it. After maybe 2 minutes, she'd made this shallow crater, about 6 inches deep. She stood up, turned her back to the bus, and pulled her orange jeans down to her ankles. Then she squatted over the hole. Everyone on the bus was frozen. Some people had their phones out. I thought maybe she was just too embarrassed to do the standing thing with an audience, but then it started. This absolutely horrific explosive hoop just erupting from her. It went on for what felt like forever, probably 30 or 40 seconds of continuous flow. The hole she'd dug was completely insufficient. It was overflowing onto the dirt around it. The smell hit the bus even though we were a good 15 feet away. People started gagging. One girl actually threw up in her backpack. Our 2 professors just sat there in the front seats, staring at each other with these looks of complete disbelief. She finished, wiped with a single piece of tissue from her pocket, stood up, pulled her jeans back on, and walked back to the bus with that same maniacal, satisfied grin. The bus doors opened. She climbed back on and sat in her original seat. Nobody said a word to her. The driver didn't even look at her. He just put the bus in gear and drove. The rest of the 90-minute drive was dead silent. The only sound was the engine. Everyone kept glancing back at her, but she just sat there calmly, looking out the window like nothing happened. When we finally pulled into Madrid, everyone slowly filed off the bus, avoiding eye contact with her. Then, as we were gathering on the sidewalk, she stood up and people noticed her orange pants were absolutely soaking wet, like she'd jumped in a pool. The dark stain went from her waist down to her knees. One of the guys looked at her and said, "What the hell happened to you?" She turned to him with zero emotion and said casually, "The bus ride was too long, so I peed myself a few times, probably 4 or 5. She said it like she was talking about the weather. Our professors immediately called her parents, and she flew home the next day. She transferred schools 2 weeks after we got back. Nobody ever found out what the final tally count was.